Okay, today we are going to talk about the opium crisis, or opioid crisis, I should say, in the United States. This is your favorite half Chinese. It's very, very tragic what is happening. Although what the government is doing is even more tragic, and that is blaming other nations for their own domestic problems, which they are seemingly, willingly not want to solve and are actually historically responsible for. It's a whole lot. Everybody knows China is getting a lot of the blame, but the question is, who is really to blame, right? It is not China that is going to the United States and is forcing them to buy all these kind of things that they using from China. In fact, China is a producer of precursors which is being used to make medication to heal people, not meant to get high of it. Before I go any further, please smash that like right now, subscribe, and also comment your thoughts below. Thank you. It is also not China that used its army, unlike the United States and the rest of the collective West, to go and force them militarily to accept these things so they could poison the people of the United States. This is actually what happened to China. By one among them was the United States, who in 1901 also invaded China together with the Eighth Alliance, which was actually about 13 other nations. Yes, there were a couple of secondary nations, and one of them was the Netherlands, who also tagged along, because wherever there is war, a lot of times, unfortunately, European nations think they have to be there. That's their place to be. Anyway, we're not going to talk much about that. Just let's first see what China did to solve that problem, because China had a huge problem when it comes to opium. Everybody has heard of the opium wars, the opium crisis in China. It was even worse than the United States, and hopefully the United States will never ever experience something equal like it, or any other nation. However, when the Communist Party came to power, within, I think it was 4 or 5 years, they had eradicated that problem. And mind you, at that time, China was number 11 poorest country in the world. So they did not have a lot of resources. They did not have the money to do a lot of things. So if we are looking at the United States today, why aren't they using resources to help their own people? That is the real question we should ask. Blaming others for your own domestic problems is not going to solve it. The problem has a lot of deep things, and I'm busy doing a research on it to make a real extensive video about how these things come about. Let me know in the comment section if you would like to see that. Let's first see how China did it. So the opioid crisis that arose from the opium wars was not resolved immediately by the early campaigns of the Qing dynasty. Instead, it persisted and even worsened for much of the 19th century. Early efforts, most notably those led by Commissioner Lin Zexu in 1839, were dramatically and symbolically powerful. Lin confiscated and destroyed millions of pounds of opium, a process that took 23 days. Do you understand now what I said? Millions of tons. This was the problem that China had to deal with. That is why I say the problem that China had was so much more worse. And I'm not trying to say that what's happening in the United States or in Europe is not bad is not a bad or anything trying to make it more small, but just to show you the gravity and to show you and also to give you the hope that it is possible to solve this problem. Because this is what you need. You need to have that hope. This is not a video to bash one or to make another one look good. This is a video which has to be educational for the people to get some inspiration from it, right? So that process actually that took 23 days to burn all that opium back in the days, actually that action provoked the first opium war. However, these efforts did not eliminate opium use. In fact, treaties following the war, such as the Treaty of Nanjing in 1842, forced China to legalize the opium trade, and domestic production eventually increased. Right? So just understand the level, how much different it is. And that is why I said in the beginning, it is not China that comes with its army to force it upon the American people. In fact, the whole finished product, they're not making that much of it. They do make the precursors, which are illegal to sell to the United States or to Americans, by the way. And if you get caught in China, your head will be gone, if people understand what I mean by that. Anyway, it was only after the establishment of the People's Republic of China in 1949 that the opium crisis was tackled on a comprehensive and national scale. The new communist government, led by Mao Zedong, viewed opium addiction not merely as a social ill, but as a threat to the revolutionary state and national strength. Beginning in the early 1950s, China embarked on a harsh, all-encompassing campaign to eradicate opium from society. This campaign included, and this is going to be important for the Americans, mass mobilization and re-education. Addicts were forcibly enrolled in treatment programs and made to undergo re-education. The state mobilized large segments of the population in anti-opium campaigns, turning public opinion against the drug. And I think I have to check again, because when I do my research, I do it a little bit, and then after a while I'll do next thing. You know, I'm also having other things to do in my life. But I think it is still by law in China, if they catch you using, that you will be forced to get rid of it. How do you call it? To get clean. You will be forced for 2 years long. They don't send you to a rehab. That was what I was looking for. They force you to go to rehab for 2 years long. Not just 3 months, like here it's very common, right? People go to rehab 3 months, they get out, they see their friends in the bar, they go and have a drink, and the same night they are on it again. I speak from experience, because I had a sort of a brother, what we call, who was using, probably still is using, I don't know, I lost contact, because very hard to deal with these people. Anyway, strict law enforcement, dealers and traffickers were arrested and in many cases executed. The campaign was carried out with an uncompromising stance towards corruption and illegal trade, right? So this is one thing that the people can learn from the Communist Party of China. When they are doing something, they are actually doing something. They do not compromise. The job has to be done. End of story. And they will make sure that the people. And if you look at China now, I don't know anybody. People obviously everywhere in the world are using certain substances. China will also have these people, but it is not like here in the Netherlands or like in the United States. Here in the Netherlands, you can just go to a bar and you walk into a toilet, and when you don't get out high, it's a miracle because a lot of people will be there putting stuff in their nose. Agriculture and economic reforms. Opium producing regions were targeted. The cultivation of opium poppies was replaced with food crops and other necessities to cut off the supply chain. That's kind of not a situation that the United States has. They have a little bit of it. I hope I can remember when we are talking about the United States. But this is actually what they did, was targeting it from all sorts of different sides, right? So let's continue. The cultural and ideological measures. The government promoted a new moral narrative that denounced opium use as incompatible with the nation's rejuvenations and the communist revolution. Well, obviously, many Americans will not say, oh yeah, it will not help us with our communist revolution. But you could make an argument it's not helpful for the rejuvenation of the United States. And obviously, the United States has a lot of problems, and also because of these kind of things that are happening with people that are addicted, right? So try to be a little bit open-minded if you want to solve the problem, right? I'm not telling you guys that you need to become a communist. So these combined measures led to a dramatic reduction in both the supply and consumption of opium. According to historical research, while the Chinese Communist Party had managed to restrict opium in revolutionary-based areas before 1949, it took until about 1953 for the nationwide campaign to effectively rid China of opium. So from 1949 to 1953, whole China was free of opium. That's just 4 years, right? That's something to look forward to. Just imagine how big that problem was. In the beginning, thousands of tons, millions of tons, right? And they were talking about, which is a, by and large, bigger problem than that the United States have ever faced, right? So, this is not, again, to show or to boast how good China did, but to give the Americans also the hope that it is very possible in a very, very short time. And mind you again, that China at that time was number 11 poorest country in the world. Yeah, I have to look because my battery is almost gone. In summary, although early 19th century campaigns like Lin Zexu's destruction of opium were significant as moral and political statements, the enduring opioid crisis was ultimately solved through the comprehensive, often draconian measures of the communist government in the early 1950s, a process that took roughly 4 years from the founding of the People's Republic 1949 until the crisis was largely eliminated by 1953. Well, people obviously will not like the word draconian measures, man. But these measures did actually save people's life and save the country from sinking. So compare that to the USA, where they legalize certain substances, where doctors subscribe opioids for just small injuries, where there are states that think of totally legalizing these substances, where you have safe spaces to use. It's beyond me where you have openly drug use on social media, normalizing the use to their youth, right? Where they do not have the death penalty, but just a couple of years for dealers in prison. It's a problem that you're not going to solve in this way, where they do not force people to get clean, but instead giving them a clean needle for their next dose. Where their government is not fighting against the poverty, because that plays a big part in the cause of drugs use. Where the media is not promoting a healthy style of living, but instead an unhealthy style of living, so a handful of people can profit. And it seems that everything is about that profit. Because what I've heard, a lot of places to go to rehab costs a lot of money, and the people who do not have that money are more often than not the people that need that rehab the most. It's not accessible. If it's not accessible to the people, and if you are not forcing people, you are holding that problem in place. If you are going on the internet and you have all these podcasts where they start smoking, you know what, just to start off their podcast, and are drinking heavily during their podcast because it is a part of their image, you are actually promoting the use of it. And you are normalizing the use of it in your society. When you're normalizing it, it will become a normal thing. Now a lot of voices in the United States want to have that green stuff to be legalized, totally legalized. And certain states already have legalized it, right? But a lot of the people that are using that first are going to graduate later to the harder stuff. And I've seen it in the Netherlands myself. When I was young, smoking that green stuff wasn't the normal thing to do. It was available though. It wasn't really that hard to get. However, there was still a certain stigma on it. When that stigma was gone, I saw even the youth starting to use the harder stuff, because that's a normal evolution. Well, I have to do normal because use of it ain't normal. So when you look at it from these kind of factors, why is the United States itself, its government, sinking ships at the coast of Venezuela, which is already that weird, taking the lives of those people, but keeping their own dealers at home and traffickers at home alive? Something you should be thinking of. And many people say that the death penalty won't work. It will work. You will not find any of those cartels shipping a ton of that stuff over to China. They will never do it. They will not be afraid to ship it to Hong Kong, which by the way is also China, but has its own government for most of it. And they don't have the death penalty. But to China, you will not be able to find people to ship it over there. Very, very little. That is why they do not have that problem in China. And also the mandatory rehab. It sounds harsh. It sounds draconian, right? You can make that argument because people like to say something nasty when it comes to China. So let's just call it draconian, because you're taking away people their freedom. But when you look at it from the other side, how free is a junkie? A person that wakes up and the first thing this person needs to do is to get a fix, otherwise they get sick. Do you call that freedom? This person probably is waking up in an abandoned building, if he's lucky, and on a street if they're not lucky. Right? That's not the freedom. So I would say if you give them mandatory rehab, just like China does, for 2 years. So they make sure it's all gone and change the whole mindset. This is what they mean with re-education. I know Americans are very scared of these words, and also the people in Europe. But just think of it. People who are using these kind of substances are not really up there mentally. And I ain't no saint either, so I can tell you from experience how stupid it must be, how deranged your thinking pattern must be to put stuff in your body that could potentially just take your life right then and there, right? So I don't think that to re-educate these people that these kind of things are not good to do is not really a bad thing. And it sounds draconian, but I would more see it as liberating them, to be honest with you all. I think everybody would agree if they just sit down and think about it, right? And not only that, what do all these people cause because of their addiction? All sorts of crimes. The most heinous crimes most often are being committed by people who are under the influence. It is not that they totally are there doing that. So by forcing them not to use and changing their mindset through re-education is actually liberating for them, because once they get out of their high and they understand what they have just done, maybe took the life of an old lady for maybe $20, right? These things really happen. How do you think this person can live with itself? Isn't it liberating if somebody would have been there beforehand and took this person to rehab and forced them to rehabilitate and give them re-education to show them how bad these things are, not only for this person itself, but also for everybody surrounding it, and that it only will cause trauma. In my view, that would be a great solution. And the United States, that has the most money in the world, should more than be able to do that. To just take out a little boat is not going to solve the problem which has been created by the government itself, right? Let's just think about the Vietnam War. What happened right then and there? The people started to shoot that smack, right? They brought it over from there. Now there's a lot of talking about how these soldiers started to use. But eventually it was poured into the communities in the United States. And in the 80s, you had this whole crack epidemic. And who brought it in? It was again the state. And it's not a big secret that Obama was selling weapons to the cartels in Mexico, who in return used it to take the lives of American police officers. That all has been proven, right? It is also no big secret that the government in the United States also let in tons of whatever it is that they need. For one, so the CIA can fund covert operations. And for two, what they say is to follow the line. Do you really believe that? You let in hundreds and hundreds of kilos because you want to see where it goes. And by doing that, all these hundreds and hundreds of kilos are disappearing in the American community. And who is going to be the victim? Everybody who comes in those surroundings. Everybody, whether you're using or not. And that's a problem. So that is why I made this video. I wanted to make it a long time. I also want to tell the Americans so you can see how China solved this problem, not by attacking other nations. They did not blame the United States, while they actually could be blaming the United States, because the United States got rich off the opium trade in China, something that a lot of Americans don't even know. Entire family in your politics were actually dealers before. Like the Roosevelt, right? And you have those institutions like universities that have been built with the proceeds of the opium trade in China. You also have those railroads. China isn't doing any of that, right? So China could easily be blaming the United States for their problem. But the government didn't do that. It chose to look at where the problem comes from. And the Americans need to look, where is it coming from? Instead of looking outside and thinking that you're the holy grail of the world, see that you're just a human like everybody else in the world, and that there have been made tremendous mistakes why there's people using. Americans like to say that their nation is the #1 country, then why is there such a high use of drugs? Why do people want to be out of their mind in a #1 country instead of experience the greatness? This is something that you should start to understand, because this is an underlying factor of what is going on. The poverty, it has been proven that many times in impoverished areas, people start using drugs out of misery. And I know it doesn't make sense if you don't have money to buy a package which is not going to give you food or whatever. But somehow in the human psyche, and this is not just for Americans, it's for all human beings, it kind of works like that. Maybe they just want to forget their misery, right? So these are things that the United States government should factor in instead of pointing their fingers left and right, right? Especially when it comes to China, I dare to say that China has done more for the American people when it is about their opioid crisis than that the United States government did for its own people and its own problem that it created itself. For example, China has illegalized all the precursors where they can make that fentanyl from to sell it to the United States and Americans. And there are cases that people have been caught doing that, and these people are not alive anymore. China has zero tolerance for these kind of things. So when we look at that, they actually are helping you. Yet Americans find it in their heart more important to put the blame on others than to look at your own problem that you've created. There's a lot of things in Western society which are creating these kind of problems. We're having the same things in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, on YouTube, of all places, we have a program. And I was watching, they have a whole series, I don't know if it's every week or whatever, but they had a whole series about substance abuses. How to use it, not how bad it is. No, how to use it responsible. They are insane to teach little kids how to use illegal substances responsible. It doesn't exist. It is literally destroying people their lives. But these are the things that we are also have to think about in the Netherlands, because it is wild over here. Wild. It's not like in the United States, thank God, no. Somehow in the Netherlands they still are able not to get totally off the chart. It happens, but it's not really that common like what I've seen in the United States. Is just what? Wow. Anyway, we should not think that we will not get there, because we will eventually. So, and again, this is not to bash the Americans or your country or to disrespect, but this is an honest effort to give you some insight. Maybe it will trigger you or provoke you into thinking a little bit deeper about the problem, and maybe you will be a part of the solution to save all these people from their bad habits, and to save your community, and to help your country to rejuvenate. I just wanted to give my small contribution to that. I hope that people will not blame me for doing this, and I hope that you will not, that your ego will not be hurt, because that was not the reason why I made this video. Anyway, let me all know what you all think of this in the comment section. I hope that Americans will have hope after they've seen that China was able to do it in 4 years, while they were number 11 poorest country in the world. So for America, there's a ton of hope to get all these people off the street and get them back in a healthy space again, and rebuild your society, make it a lot safer, right? Anyway, let me know in the comment section what you all think of this. This was your favorite Half Chinese. Please like, share, and also comment. Of course, don't forget to comment. I love your comments. I always read the comments as much as I can, because when they're placed on older videos, then sometimes I find them later when I look at all the comments in once in the thing. I don't know how to explain that, because I'm a rookie when it comes to YouTube. Anyway, this was your favorite Half Chinese. Have a great day. I already said that, but you can never have enough great days. So another great day when we are signing off. Peace.